Dude, it's good to see you in person again. I think it's been
Thank
a
you.
couple years.
It has, yeah.
So I was mentioning you're quite a bit taller than I remember you. So
Everybody says that. I don't know if it's like a camera placement issue or what, but I got to work on that because that seems like a common thing people bring
the
up
best
when
of
they see me.
compliments, though.
Yeah, I guess. Eat my vegetables.
So I'm super excited to dig in today.
Sure.
When we met, when you were working at Six Rivers,
Yep.
which is now part of Shopify,
Yep.
yeah, I went out at an SKO, and I think you were heading up their business development team at the time. Like
That's right.
you've since like taken over as VP of Sales,
Yep.
Buyer's Edge platform, which we'll talk about here a little bit. But
Yep.
if you could, maybe give us some context into your current role, and then what we'll
Yeah.
do today together that'll be pretty fun is I kind of want to unpack like how you got there.
Sure.
And there isn't a lot of content and interviews I've seen where someone kind of walks through like, here's what made me a good IC. Here's some of the lessons I
Yeah.
had to learn as a manager. Here's how a second line leader was different than a manager. And now as a VP of sales, here's what I need to be good at that is very different from being, a frontline leader, for example. So I'm excited to dig into that, but give us a little bit of a context. Like what are you doing now at a Buyer's Edge platform?
Yep.
What's the org that you run? All of that good stuff.
Yeah, let's do it. So first, it's incredible to be here. I feel like my Shopify and Six River days are like light years behind
know,
us,
right?
and the world has changed dramatically since then. But it's fun to talk about these topics. I think what I'm hopeful in our conversation today is to be able to share a lot of the secret sauce that I wish was shared with me as an IC, a first line manager, director, VP, all those things. But Buyer's Edge, for those that don't know, we're a digital procurement network. And so what that means is we're connecting data and insight for independent operators and even massive chains to help them save money as well as drive revenue into their restaurants in individual locations. So we connect the data between manufacturers, distributors, and those operators to say things like, hey, what should we do in terms of adjusting our flavor profiles? How do we update our menus? Or how do we do forecasting of specific trends in the marketplace? So it's really fortunate to have landed there about 2 years ago.
Yep.
Quite candidly, a recruiter reached out to me, gave me the spiel and was like, hey, here's the company. I did not get it. It was complicated and hard. And so one of the things that is uniquely me is just my urgent curiosity. I've been that way since I was 3.
Yeah.
Took the call, and then the more I got into the business, the more I was interested in. You can kind of think about Buyer's Edge as just a roll-up of a lot of different individual brands that all play in the same space, and then they all kind of have this network effect where different brands can work together and drive value into operators or distributors or manufacturers.
Love it. Tell us more about your work.
Yeah. So as the EVP of SMB sales, LMNOP, all the letters, right? Really what my surface area that I'm accountable for is one, top of funnel and driving top of funnel business, so qualified opportunities into the different brands. It's also accountable for a field selling team. So these are reps scattered across the US going into restaurants every single day, an inside selling team, client management, and support. So really the whole revenue journey, as you might talk about it.
Love it.
Yeah.
So before we dig into your journey, you mentioned curiosity. You said you've been like that since you're 3.
Yeah.
Curiosity is obviously a big part of sales and being great at sales. I think that curiosity is a really big part of being a great leader too, right?
Yeah.
So where does the curiosity come from?
Yeah. I was that kid that kept on asking whys. In your first sales training, you sat down with somebody in enablement or somebody in training, and they were like, "Oh, the 5 whys." I'm like, "Oh, there's a name for this? Like that's a real thing." I've been the person that's just like, "Well, why does that happen? And why did you do this? Or how did it kind of go there?" I think the seeking that understanding or how the world works has just been pretty natural in my life. But when it comes to my professional life, it's finding that if you understand the root problem, you can save a bunch of time, effort, mental capacity solving the right problem versus just a problem. And I think a lot of us, when I was in IC, it was just like, oh, you said something here, I'm just going to throw up some value prop and get something to work. But then if you actually I don't know, produce this artful discovery, this nice conversation, you start to say, ooh, this actually is a better solution for you or a better solution to the problem.
Do you find that problem identification and then getting to the root cause, do you find it's very similar, your role as a VP of sales, like problem solving for your org and problem solving as a rep with a customer? Do you find similarities between those two?
I do think so. I think the unique scenario is, and just to be crystal clear, my relationship and a lot of the book of business that I've been accountable for in my career has been SMB, so high volume transactional.
Yeah.
I don't think this is necessarily the same for these really big enterprise reps, but in my experience, the leadership conversation is you get to know your peers. You get to have these deep relationships. You understand what their motivators are, what their kind of like, I don't know, their Achilles heel is, where they need support. And a lot of times in my individual contributor life, it was 1 call closes, or it was like 3 call closes. So I never got that depth. So it was about urgency to be able to develop the connection, understand what the problem was, solve the right problem, and then obviously hand that off to client management or the operations team to fulfill the promise.
Love it. So let's unpack your career a little bit. And there's a ton of learning lessons, I think, for those that are watching and listening along the way. You said the evolution of a senior leader, as I see it, is about who you know versus what you know and how you leverage relationships.
Yeah.
So I thought that was like really great to kind of set this up. So if we start at the IC level, you were working at Bidding for Good.
Correct.
I believe, right? So walk us through. I'm curious also just how you got into sales. I would love to know that. And then what was like that first role like for you?
Yeah. So if we go in the way, way back machine, it's a Friday night. I'm working at this company called Tech Target here in Massachusetts. There was sales reps. I don't know if Matt even remembers this conversation. We were both there Friday after hours, like 6 or 7 p.m. on the same team. He was in sales and I'm in operations. And I just had this moment where I'm like, how much money do you make?
You just asked him straight up.
We were there all the time. And I just kind of got to this point and I was just the number came back and it was 2.5 times what I was making. I'm like, smart guy, experienced guy, but I'm like, I could definitely do this.
Yeah.
Right. And so I think that was the first step. And then I came to realize what, I don't know, 80%, 90% of people realize is sales is way harder than anybody gives it credit for.
Yep.
And you have to go through the trenches in order to earn the right to be able to progress in that. And so what I did is I joined an early stage startup, which is Bidding for Good. eBay for Charity is kind of the way. It's since been acquired. But I just came in as this BDR to be able to cold call. And this was back in the day where I had a Zagat's guide of restaurants.
Oh, wow.
I pulled that out into a spreadsheet being, a nerdy kid from RIT.
Yeah.
And I just started smashing through and, having in some cases great conversations, but more realistically terrible conversations with folks. And so I kind of took my operations background or my technical background and started to leverage social engineering. Hey, how do I make it so I can get through the gatekeeper? Or how do I just have fun with this gatekeeper because I'm having a really ice cold day on the phones? And so I just started inching towards that and being able to say, okay, I got through the gatekeeper. Now I'm with the decision maker. What do I need to do to be successful in those conversations? And that's where, and I kind of mentioned it before, artful discovery. How do you have fun? How do there's somebody in my life, there's a mentor I have where they say people will find reasons to do business with people they like.
Yeah.
And they'll find reasons to avoid people they don't like and they don't want to do business with those people. So I just wanted to say, okay, how can I be that person that people, when I leave a message, they actually call me back?
Yeah.
And so whether that's your pre-call research, whether that's your tone, cadence, just the way you present yourself on the phone, the way that I speak today and the way that I articulate myself is much different than I did just because I've made these 10,000 calls over the time.
Let's talk about that because that's always been the thing that stuck out to me about you is just how you show up and like you're very likable.
Okay.
Thanks. And like how to lead and also have fun, but know how to be serious when you need to. There's definitely an art to that. So what was it like? You're getting hired to do this cold calling job.
Sure.
I'm assuming you had not cold called really prior to that.
Ever, yeah.
How did you start to develop that, like, I love that quote. It's like, being likable, I think, is super underrated in sales.
Yeah.
Because
I would agree
like
with
being
that.
likable, it earns you that next minute or two. Like it might get you the meeting in some cases. How did you develop that? And I ask because I think that's something I think it's very hard to teach, actually.
Yeah. I wish I could say that it was from a really good place, but candidly, it actually comes back from me, again, being a kid. I was really seeking social acceptance. I wanted to be this likable, popular person, and I wasn't. I was like this nerdy, awkward kid growing up.
Yeah.
And so I just, for better, for worse, just really observed quietly, whether it was small facial expressions or just tone.
Like other reps that were in the office you're talking about?
I'm talking about in 5th grade, like other
Oh,
classmates, like
dang,
just
okay.
even like way back in the day where it's
Yeah.
like, hey, I wanted this like social proof, or I wanted to like
Yeah.
grow and have a bigger network and not just be kind of on the sidelines. And so just in that, just observing people for years and years and years, I started to understand the nuance. And a lot of people can do it. And I've noticed this with my field reps. Face to face is a lot easier. I can see you.
Yes.
But what I learned in this cold calling kind of role was, well, how do you hear that? And so how do you take the nuance of a conversation that's just audio when there's no sort of visual and start to hear things like, I'm losing this person, or
Yeah.
this person's having a hard day, or you know what? Let's just call it as it is. I don't think you're enjoying this conversation right now. Do I have
Yeah.
that right? Yeah. How many people like me have you talked to today?
Yeah.
Which ones did you like? And so starting to have that person go from, hey, you are a target on my target list, and this is a conversation that I want to qualify, or an opportunity that I can move into
Yeah.
pipeline, and instead say, hey, how do I wheel the chair around the table so we're on the same
Same
side,
side.
to say like, hey, listen, is this something that you're going after or not? And if so, here's why I think you should have a conversation with me and not a competitor or a peer or something else.
Yeah.
And that, quite candidly, is just the school of hard knocks of just thousands of attempts trying to do that.
Yeah. I love that. So it sounds like a big part of your success early on is, and even just as a kid, which I relate to so much, I was painfully introverted as a kid.
Yeah.
I
I can't
still
even
am-
imagine that for you today.
Oh, really?
Which is wild. Yeah.
I still am introverted, and the social battery is a little tough sometimes, but I felt like as a kid, I feel like all my friends had this superpower
Yeah.
that I did not have. And as I grow up, I'm learning also, I'm half white and half Chinese.
Okay.
So, and I grew up in a place that was predominantly white. So I kind of felt out of place also.
Sure.
So I'm learning that was maybe a part of it. But the observation, like you really keying in on like small details and
Yeah.
tonality, and like the second thing that you mentioned, this like showing up and being like hyper present in the call to where you can pick up on like, does this person sound like they want to talk to me or not?
Yeah.
Like that's such a big thing. The other piece that you said I thought that was pretty interesting too was this like, how do I get myself in this mode where I am like taking that curiosity to the level of understanding, is this worth their time or not? Is there something here real for us to talk about? And like, you're really coming at a place of service.
Yeah.
Like, is there something here in a conversation to be had versus how do I get my stuff out? And I know that's something that we talk about a lot in sales is less
Yeah.
about your product and more about the problem. But I think part of that has to come from a place of genuinely caring
Yeah.
about helping the person. What are your thoughts on that?
Yes, is the short answer.
Yeah.
So, but maybe to back that up a little bit, or go a bit deeper, is one, and you'll kind of see it through my career journey, I really tried my damnedest to align myself with products and teams and companies that I actually care about or would buy if I was that ICP.
Yeah.
So that, first and foremost, that always trumped just like the flashy brand that's like trending, or, you
Yep.
know, all of the peers that are like, oh, I'm working at, this company, come join me.
Yep.
Right. And so I think that act of service is something that I was raised with. It's something
Yeah.
that I'm coaching and trying to mentor into the folks on my team today. But I also think it's something where selfishly, it's one of those things where I have to do the work.
Yep.
And so if I'm not having fun, yeah, I think anybody can fake anything for 30 days, 45 days, 60 days.
Yep.
But I was doing this, as you can see, for years. And so I needed to enjoy it and I needed to be bought in because I was noticing that on the days that I was banged up, had a really fun night the night before, my stats and just my performance was garbage.
Yeah.
But then if I, rested, if I had worked out, if I had eaten well, I was just in the zone. It's like, you're driving, you see these Formula One drivers that go in the zone, or sports and different athletes are in that zone. That was my zone. And I was able to do that and really have great conversations.
Well, and you're treating it like a sport, it sounds like, too.
Yeah.
Right? You're taking it seriously. And one last thing is I have noticed that, I have a team helping out and delivering with the training now, but there would be days sometimes where I do 5 or 6 like group workshops that I'm running in a day.
Wow.
And what
That's
helped
intense.
me, it is, energy wise, was instead of just going through the motions of presenting and workshopping and that sort of stuff, it's like, how can I connect with multiple individuals in this call? And I think that like what you mentioned there around like, how can I really connect with them on a human level? It just seems to be a really big part of like how you get people to open up and like all of that kind of stuff. So let's talk about your role as a manager. So at Bidding for Good, you're a rep.
Yep.
The time horizon you said you were thinking in is like days and weeks and maybe hours even.
Literally. Yeah.
Right. And now you're a manager.
Yep.
So walk us through, like, did you know that you wanted to get into sales leadership versus go the IC? Yeah. Why the sales leadership role, and walk us through like what were some of the struggles that you had early on with that?
Yeah. I think just to put it on record, I was never your 2X rep. I was never the 170% rep.
Yeah.
I was a great rep. I hit quota. I was often above quota, but I wasn't like the people that are just the rainmakers.
Yeah.
But what I knew from a very early stage was that I could be a better coach than player. And so I think for me, it was the thing that I had, or the things that I could contribute to the folks that were kind of those B players that could turn into the A players, were executive functioning. I just set up my day, like, whether it's ADD or just like me just being all over the place all the time, to be able to be present. I had to create guardrails. I had to create frameworks and process and structure for me to be successful. And I noticed that this was a really massive struggle for a lot of other folks around the team. So when I kind of elevated into that manager role, it was, here's what's working for me. Here's how I do the thing. And then it was a conversation to say, what's going well for you? What isn't going well for you? And so for some of the, the 2X player, it was like, get out of the way. Just let them do their thing within reason and have a good time. But then for those that were struggling, it was, here's the playbook so that you can create your own narrative and you can create your own opportunity and own the book and start to drive some of that. And so that was where the time horizon expands from, okay, how many calls or how many connects or how many opportunities do I have to create, and into more of a monthly cadence, or even a quarterly cadence, which was, hey, what's the one thing that we should focus on over the next 30 days that's going to help every other call sound better or create more opportunity for you, and or the opportunity to say, stop.
Yeah.
No, this is not the call for you. This is not going to convert. And instead of pretending like this is going to go the distance over the next 45 days or 2 months, let's just chop it off here so you have that energy and opportunity to have the right call with the right person to move forward.
So if I'm hearing you correctly, a big part of one of the first things you did was just kind of like zoom out a bit and just document like how you succeeded as a rep.
Correct. Yep.
Yeah. Where does that muscle come from? Because that's like an enablement muscle.
Oh,
or
really?
An ops muscle. That maybe the operations background.
Yeah.
I
guess.
How do I operationalize this? And like, what does the structure look like?
Sure.
And most salespeople don't really think in that way.
I feel like I'm not. Everybody told me I was supposed to go into sales. Again, like going back to my childhood, I'm the only guy in my family that's not an engineer. Oh. So I come at it from a very engineering science of sales versus kind of the relationship of sales methodology. And so I just wanted to know how everything worked, right? And so it was that's just the way it had to be done. And so I don't know if anybody sat me down and be like, hey, you should really document all this, or hey, this is something helpful. For me, because I was new to sales, or I was nervous about making these calls, or had some sort of like anxiety or fear of the phone, that was safety. That was predictability. That was comfort. That was confidence. And so when I had everything in front of me, I felt prepared to be able to have the confidence that was required to have the conversation that that prospect deserved.
So that process and the documenting of it, that sounds like a really big piece of the puzzle.
Yeah.
You mentioned something around pulling the right internal resources together to prioritize revenue generating activities. So is a part of this like knowing how to remove distractions like from your team, but then how are you thinking about your role as the ambassador, I guess, for your team, and like building relationships outside of your team with other stakeholders to get what you need? Like, how did you think about all of that stuff?
Yeah. And again, I came at sales from operations. So as anybody in operations will tell you, these sales people go out, they make some sort of commitment, and then we're left to deliver against it. And so at the time I don't want to be like that. So if the product is, or if the team isn't articulating the value or what's real and on the truck, who's accountable for that? Me.
Yeah.
Right. And so it just happened to be this moment of serendipity where it was like, I'm in control of the talk track. I'm in control of the targets. I'm in control of these things. And so when we faced conversations where the product wasn't relevant or it wasn't solving all the things, and we had that authentic conversation, I already had the skill set. I already had the relationships. I was already well versed in being able to say, oh, this is a product market fit issue. This isn't a bad rep. I can assess whether the conversation was good or not. But this was a larger conversation to say, hey, I think I need to have, back in the day, we didn't even have some of these technologies to record the calls. So it was like, hey, I'm going to get this product manager. I'm going to get our CEO. I'm going to get these people into the conversation and into the mix so early in the funnel that they could actually hear things that were informing their positions, because in many cases they were dog fooding or they were already drinking so much Kool-Aid. They were like, you're going to unlock the revenue. This is a you thing, not a me thing. And I was trying to really work across the aisle to say, no, this is an us thing. We have to bring this and usher this company forward.
So this is something you just proactively started doing.
I don't know. It's just
That's wild to me.
Why?
Well, what's wild is that you're doing things for the greater good of the company.
Yeah, but selfishly, isn't it helping you? Like, you are the company.
It does.
It's like we're traffic, like right? Like you're not sitting in traffic. You are the traffic for the person behind you, right? And so I think like I am the company, and so I feel with the companies that I dedicate my most valuable resource, which is time.
Yeah, a lot of time every week. Yep.
Right. So it's, where does it start? I think it starts with me, and then I noticed that when I was doing that, what happens next?
Oh, your team is going to model your behavior.
Right. And so like now you start to amplify. And so now when it comes to culture, when it comes to just moving the product, I mean, there's been incredible journeys of people that I've had the pleasure of, whether it's leading or partnering or working with, that now they're off doing incredible things. And or when they were on my team, it's like, cool, I don't have to deal with that thing.
Yeah.
It's not my responsibility. I can delegate that out. It's like, that's your hill to die on. Amazing. That will also benefit the company and me as well.
I mean, what you shared just now, to me, hearing this as an outsider, has got to be a really critical part of your ability to like get promoted through these companies and to be where you're at right now. It's like you're being a team player. There's so many, I can't tell you how many reps, especially, and you've probably seen it, where they're doing something that's working and they don't even want to share it with the rest of the team so that they can have all the spoils to themselves, so to speak. Even though they're not competing directly in the same territory, like nothing, they don't want to share.
That's really
at all.
Yeah.
It sucks.
It's so frustrating as a leader as well, because it's like, well, okay, I understand the philosophy of that, but I think I'm accountable to understand that individual, to say what happened and where when that started to pay dividends for you. Like
Yeah.
at a different company or here, did people feed you more leads because your conversion rate was higher? And so you
Yeah.
were like, hey, I need to protect this thing? Or is this something that happened even before your
Yeah.
professional life? It's like, let's bring you the whole person to work and say, like, what's going on here so we can understand that? Because at the end of the day, for many of us, we have our base compensation, our variable compensation, and in rare instances, even some sort of ownership stake in the organization,
Yep.
whether that's options, equity of some piece. And
Yep.
I'm trying to make that valuable. And so
Yeah.
the only way to do that, in my view, is how do you have a step function change in the enterprise
Yeah.
value of the organization versus just like a hit quota. Okay, that was
Yeah.
last month. Let's go back
Yeah.
this month.
I love that, man. It's so refreshing.
Yeah.
I can't tell you. I mean, it's the
It's a
majority
really
of our,
fun way to live. You asked me before we started rolling. You're like, "Hey, how do you manage your stress, or how do you handle the amplitude of the highs and lows of sales?"
Yeah.
And for me, this is the secret key. If you have this philosophy, if you have this mentality where we're in this together, it's like I don't have the answers. I'm not this crazy Oz behind a screen
Yeah.
that knows everything, but we collectively will get to the
Yeah.
end goal. And I welcome these crazy growth goals ahead of me for 26 because I know that I have that team there.
Yeah. I love that, man. One last thing I wanted to ask you about your manager role was, how did you think about the relationships that you were building with the individual reps? Like, how well did you know them on a personal level?
Yeah.
How in tune were you with their goals and
Yeah.
like knowing them as a person? Like, how did you think about that part of the equation?
I would say, and this is probably also hard to hear, it's hard to say. At the beginning, too much.
Yep.
And as I got deeper into it, I had to have a little bit of a distance. And the
Yeah.
reason for that is because whether it was layoffs or whether it was performance management, I found that when I was a first-time manager, it was at this point we were siblings. That's
Yeah.
how well I knew them. And then things that were very much out of my control, where word from on high was like, hey, we got to cut 20% of your sales organization. And that has to happen in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
That for me, I mean, I didn't sleep for a week. I didn't
it's
know what
so-
to say.
yeah.
It's just the worst part of any person's role is to say, I'm making decisions that are outside of your control, that are outside of my control, but I have to be a corporate steward and I'm accountable for these conversations.
Yeah.
And so how do you do that with respect? Ultimately shaped the relationships going forward, which is I want to be friendly. I want to know you. I want to be a big piece of your life, but I'm not everything.
Yep.
And I think that for better, for worse, I've had to put that line in the sand a little bit further away than I'd like to respect a boundary that someday, somehow, some way, there could be a decision that I have to make that's in the best interest of the business that might not be in your
Yeah.
best interest. And that sucks,
Oh,
to be
it
honest.
does.
But that's
Yeah.
the way that I've been able to, whether it's protect my heart or protect my own health, that's kind of what's
Yeah.
resulted.
Yeah, and your ability to maintain like objectivity.
Yeah.
if that's a word. I struggle with this on like with our team now. It's I love all of the people on our team,
Yeah.
right? And I do care about them as individual humans. But you're right. There has to, for me too, be a somewhat distance there where I can
Yeah.
be really objective. And I think it was Layla Hormozi. I don't know if you've seen her stuff at all. She talked about, there's kind of three things that you have to think about. There's like what's best for the business, what's best for the customer, and then what's best for the individual. And like you have to take all three of those into consideration.
Yep.
And to your point, sometimes what's best for the business is not best,
Yeah.
for the individual.
100%.
Okay, so you become a director at Bidding for Good, and then we're a director multiple times after that.
Yeah. I was stuck.
Yeah, you said the focus here is really around building a high-performing team
Yep.
versus finding the next, top rep. So what was
Yeah.
that like moving up again, where now you're another layer removed from like the
Sure.
rep and the day-to-day? And I feel like the director position is like the most ambiguous
It is.
job in the sales org. You're like in this weird middle area where you're like managing people that manage people, and you roll up to your VP or whoever, and there's like a lot of folks, I think, that just get stuck in this like
Yeah.
just dashboard mode where all they do is just hop in meetings and look at dashboards all day, and they're like so removed from the day to day,
Yeah.
and they're just like getting things from both ends. But what was that
Yeah.
progression like for you?
Sure. So, first of all, I was that. As you kind of see in the resume, right? I was a different director at each of those different organizations.
Really?
Like
Yeah.
the
just
approach.
based on your learnings. And,
Yeah, just based on my learnings. And, at first I was this, dashboard monkey. I was the dashboard director,
Yeah.
right? Where it was like, okay, the math is working. Why isn't the team morale in the right spot? And then, I'd swing too far in the other direction. I'd be like, okay, the culture's incredible, but the math ain't mathing. Like,
Yeah.
we're not going to be able to make it. And so I think for me, elevating into the director role is the first time somebody expects you to build or at least have a crystal ball. And you have to, again, be accountable for what you think the business is going to do in the next 6 months.
Yeah.
Right. And so that is super challenging. First, just conceptually, what is a crystal ball and how do you build one?
Yeah.
And then to the point I made to you about, I have inherited and I have found rock stars. These are not just A players. These are A+++ players. And I am eternally grateful to have worked with those individuals, to have those people on my team. But that takes forever to find and very often is impossible to build.
Yeah.
And so in the director role, my approach, or what I thought I needed to do, was to say, okay, I don't think I can build the A++ player, but can I go out and find and recruit B players and convert them into A players, or recruit consistently A players and build them into that? And so that's where, whether it was my own IC stuff or some of the mentorship and coaching stuff from my manager work, that I started to then, for the first time, coach coaches. And so I noticed that a lot of the managers who would roll into me were the different personas of a people manager, right?
Yeah.
So either the mini dashboard monkey,
Yeah.
the mini relationship, or like elite athlete that was just had incredible camaraderie but didn't know how to count, like all the things that you kind of come into.
Yeah.
And it was like, okay, how do you put best on best? Or how do you create this melting pot of skills and attributes to be able to say, okay, you're a rock star at actually selling. You were a top rep and this is your first time people leader. You create the talk tracks, or you're going to do some of the call coaching, and you're going to be accountable. Yes, your pod's 6 people, 8 people, 9 people, 12 people, whatever that number is, but you're also going to be accountable for the wider group to shape how we coach. And so you're going to hop in this one-on-one, or actually we're going to create these like coaching pods where these 4 people are all struggling with one thing and they're going to go with this subject matter expert because that's valuable. I guess my approach as a director was, because I have been put into a director role because somebody made that decision for me, I'm going to run it my way.
Yeah.
And it wasn't just, okay, let's just have these really firm lines of like, if you're a pod leader, it's your thing 100%. It was much more, to your point, like the company, the team, and then the individual. And so I kind of worked into that, into my philosophy as a director, the way to facilitate that. And then as a director, the other thing that was super new to me was, okay, let's learn how to build relationships. And I've failed at this miserably many times with my counterpart in marketing. It used to be, and as I came up, it was always like, what does marketing even do? And why don't I have any qualified leads?
Yep.
And then I realized, oh, you have to talk to these people across the aisle to help them target things, to have the types of conversations or seek out the type of individuals you want to talk to. And forming those relationships is really hard. They don't trust you. In many cases, we don't trust them. And I found that unless that relationship was super healthy, it was a really bad time.
Yeah. Is there anything tactical you can share on that subject to someone that's maybe new in a director's seat that's thinking about building some more of these relationships across the org, on stuff that's worked for you, how they might approach it?
Yeah. This is going to sound so corny, but I mean, just go to their team meetings, go to their coaching sessions, go to their, and live in their ecosystem.
Yeah.
And don't offer advice.
Yeah.
For at least a quarter, just sit there and take notes.
Yeah.
Speak when spoken to.
Yeah.
That's not your team. That's not your area of expertise. And so I would say if you're a new director, the thing that I didn't do is I came at it with marketing is in service of sales. And I think that's obviously not true. It's a partnership. And so
Yep.
I think coming in there with some transparency of, hey, here's what I'm looking at. Like, I'm going to show you mine before you show me yours.
Yep.
And like what that plan looks like, I think would be really valuable.
Yeah, some of the best clients that we've worked with, I mean, have done the opposite of that too, where we'll do an outbound training and they'll bring their marketing team to just ride shotgun and look at what we're doing. And it's that proactive collaboration,
Yeah.
like helps a ton, man. So let's come to VP plus.
Yeah.
So I'm looking at, so you went from being a director at Three Rivers.
Six River Systems.
Six
Yeah.
River Systems,
Yeah.
excuse me. So Six River Systems
Yep.
to being a VP of sales.
Correct.
So what was that jump like? And like now we're adding another layer on top of this. And then you're managing multiple different roles
Yeah.
in the sales org. How are you feeling about the responsibility that you just inherited? Like, were you nervous for that, anxious for that? Were you feeling pretty confident? Like, how did you feel?
Yeah. So I was really confident about it.
Yeah.
And the reason for that is what you said before about the breadth of what a director could be and is so wide.
Yeah.
So in some of those instances, I was the head of sales with a director title. So I reported straight to a CEO. Granted, smaller organization like Series A to Series C.
Yeah.
But I had owned the number and felt the pressure of the board and had those conversations.
Yeah.
So when I walked into Buyer's Edge as a VP of inside sales, I was nested under and into the org under a CRO, under a chief of staff, under a CEO. So I had the skills and training and quite candidly scar tissue to be able to facilitate those conversations. And I think the reason they were interested in me is because I brought some of that outside lens into a business that's been, around for a long time, right? This is a family business. This is kind of a roll up of a lot of individual brands. It's a company that's kind of started from nothing in Rochester, New York to where we are today.
Yeah.
And I think that they were trying to place a bet to say, hey, we have a lot of institutional knowledge, but we need somebody who has that outside perspective to say, what should we keep? What
Yeah.
should we accelerate? And what do we need to think about reevaluating for the future?
So how do you as a VP think about your week?
Yeah.
Like, what does the time management look like for you and how you spend your days and
Yep.
how you where you choose to prioritize your time? Like, how do you think about that?
Sure. So my time horizon now is 6 months out and
Yep.
further. So in more realistically, 9 months out. So it's one, everything comes back to the model,
Yeah.
right? And so this is where my time as a director, I had really helpful CFOs and folks in finance that kind of gave me this baptism by fire of like, here's the P&L, here's how it works. You're burning too much capital. This is going to be a bad time. Like, you have to pivot.
Yeah.
Now as a VP, that's a really, really big part of my day is to be able to forecast and be able to understand like, how are we trending historically? And then for the forecast in the next quarter, 2 or 3 quarters, what are the bets that I need to make today to make that easier, better, faster, to beat expectation? And so if you were to take, my week, I probably spend 20% of my time focusing on forecasting, budgeting, and just the P&L. I probably spend another 30% of my time on just developing the individual teams that roll into my organization. So that could be, is there an issue with the product? It kind of goes all layers. So it could be just a product issue. It could be a leadership issue. It could be a coaching or integration or enablement issue, but just kind of like these big rocks there. 20% of my time is probably just the fire du jour, like something is blowing up that needs my attention. And then probably the remaining 30% is really just trying to understand and work the network within the organization. So whether that's folks in marketing, product, our C-suite, all the folks, just to make sure everybody's connected. Because as you probably have experienced, everybody says this, communication is critical, but there's kind of the public communication, but then, I'm sure we'll get into it. There's also the political communication of being able to say, who's actually going to make the call on this decision? Or what do I need to do to keep the right people informed of the progress of our organization to ensure that I'm not stepping on toes or that I'm moving at the right velocity of the business and just usher this kind of like this baby that I'm nurturing into adulthood.
Mm-hmm. So let's talk about corporate politicking then.
Yeah.
This is something that you had mentioned. There's a bunch of pro tips that you have, but what's this journey been like for you? This is something that I have not. I've had one job. I worked at one company and they had a small corporate office and there was not, I was so young at the time. I was 23, you know. I worked with them 18 to 23, 24-ish. I didn't have someone teach this to me. I didn't really learn a lot of this. I've learned it through working with our customers.
Yeah.
You know, honestly.
Have you found a training or a individual or just you have a much different role than I. You get to interface. You have that kind of consultative background. You get to dive in and then leap out of these organizations at a pretty wild velocity, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
It's impressive. And so have you found just the masterclass on politics for corporations?
Not really. I've learned some of this from my wife, Sarah, who's like very sharp when it comes to this stuff. She used to work at Nike. So, big corporate, type of environments. It's, you talked about knowing people's internal motivations. That's something I've picked up from her over the years, especially in your personal life. Like really understand, like, what does this person want?
Yeah.
What are they excited about? What are they emotional about? Like that's been a really big thing. Another thing I've learned through a lot of the VPs that I work with, it's like when we have the conversations outside of a recorded Zoom call, it's like they spill all the tea, dude.
Right.
So it's like, oh shit, okay, you don't get along with your CRO.
Yeah.
And this is what you think of them. Or hey, there's this manager that you inherited that you don't want to work with, who's not performing, and you can't fire them right now. So what are you doing about that type of thing?
Yep.
So I've learned a lot through observation. And then now that we're starting, I did, have a marketing team that was like 35 people.
Yep.
We had a call center and all that kind of stuff. So I have and I ran sales teams. So I have like a good, I'm on my team, what to do. And then I learned a lot in my corporate job actually from the guy I did report to around your personal brand and how to talk about and report on your department. But to answer your question, I haven't seen any kind of masterclass on this. A lot of it is hopefully you have a good mentor.
Yeah.
And then you're probably just going to make a lot of mistakes and fuck a lot of things up and just learn.
That's my way, right? Like I had both of those. I had mentors and I also had just making a lot of mistakes along the way. And I think that's the thing that has been quite challenging in my career, to be honest with you, is that I kept hitting this wall where it's like the metrics were where it needed, the culture was where it needed to be. And I just couldn't break this kind of VP barrier, right? People would, in interviews or recruiters would say, hey, I'd trust you with, I don't know, a 35 million ARR business. No question. I maybe could stretch you to 45 or 50 million, but I'm not going to give you $100 million. And I'm like, why? Like the machine, I've already built the machine. It's on the shelf. Like, let's go and just do that. And I think it was really just this character development, just understanding that the higher you're going into the organization, the more power you're dealing with. And so in more interests that are kind of not talked about and are less transparent. And so I think today, fortunately, Buyer's Edge, the culture thrives on transparency. I have great relationships with the executives that I work on, but everyone has their side project or their side hustle or their specific thing that they're trying to get done. And so working within that, that framework is really critical to your success.
So a big part of this actually, I think, is executive presence too.
Sure.
Right? It's something I've talked to our team a lot about lately. because, hey, you're an outside trainer and you're showing up into a call where there's like the executives on their team. Like, how are you showing up in that call? How do you think about executive presence in like just for yourself? And then also like now you have directors and leaders who need to know how to have executive presence also. And it's like this thing that it's kind of hard to wrap your finger around like how to teach it.
Yep.
But you definitely know when someone has it.
Yeah.
But how do you think about executive presence?
Well, maybe to go back a little bit. So I was at one of the companies that's on the CV, and I thought that I was going to be promoted into the VP sales or the head, the next level. And I was told no, full stop. And they said, you can either opt out or you can learn from this mentor. And this person is going to be at this lunch. And if you show up, I know what your answer is. And if you don't, you don't.
Yeah.
And so as a part of that negotiation, I asked for executive coaching. The C-suite had this executive coach. I wasn't the C-suite, so I didn't have access to that. And I said, I'll do the deal. I'll ride, as the co-pilot or backseat or whatever, but I do need to have that coach and I need to have access to that. And so the first thing when you're like, okay, what is executive presence or what is the first day in the first conversation with the coach? They're like, Aaron, you need to be like a duck. And have you heard this before?
Is this the shit can be going on crazy under the water, but you need to...
Exactly. And so what I found was whether it was my facial expression...
you would just wear it on your face.
Oh my God, man.
It's hard.
It's so hard. It's such a hard thing to do because, again, like that's just how I was raised. You knew exactly as soon as I got to my desk or as soon as I went in the front door what type of day I was already having. And so what I learned through this person who was a third party observing just the energy in this space was, hey, Aaron, do you know that you're stressing your team out? It's like, I haven't even said anything, sent a message or email or anything. And they're like, you're wearing that message. They already know.
So is this like a...
massive unlock?
Yeah.
And it didn't turn around in a week, right? But in the following weeks and months, and now we can sit here and it's like, you have no idea the velocity at which like I'm going through all the things that we're talking about. But I feel like I can now have the presence, or I'm at least aware of, hey, my energy or the way that we're having even this conversation matters. And it makes you feel comfortable, and it also selfishly calms me down too.
Yeah.
And so we can have a really good time here.
That's such a big thing. One more thing I want to ask you on this topic is, how do you think about communicating? And this is also coming from a place of with the team right now, what I'm working on is like how to succinctly talk to a client about why we are doing what we are doing, giving them the simple steps that we're recommending and being able to concisely make your point, a strong point or recommendation in 30, 45 seconds.
Yeah.
And like that communication style and speaking the way that an executive speaks, that's like very like matter of fact, like removing fluff and like making sure that we're talking about why we're doing it and tying it to the business outcome that we care about.
Yeah.
How do you think about communication?
Yeah. I think the first thing is removing yourself from the outcome. In many cases, we can control the inputs and we can control our effort. But we don't, in many cases, own the full conversation. We only have access to the one that they're having with us. And so in the conversations that folks are having in another room that you're not a part of, it's how do you influence that conversation?
Yeah.
And so as an executive, the thing that I'm now privy to is I'm in those rooms that you're not in.
Yeah.
And so I know how they work. And so what I now have the ability to do is kind of break down that wall.
Yeah.
And so when I'm having a conversation with a prospect or I'm having a conversation with this customer, I can say we both know that this is just the first of 3 other conversations you're about to have about this particular topic. How can I prepare you for that conversation with this person who I know is not on board?
Yeah.
What does that sound like? Or what does that look like? And as an individual contributor, as an AE, I was mortified to have that conversation because I was like choking these deals so hard to try to say, I just need to get this over the finish line, no matter what the heartbeat or what the health of that is. And now it's like, I'm looking for good business.
Yeah.
because that business is going to pay a dividend for myself, my family, the company
Yep.
for years to come.
Yeah.
Does that help, or is there
Yeah.
a piece that you'd like to?
Oh, I think there's
dig
such a
into?
meta thing there with, as a sales executive, you are in those executive conversations
Sure.
that the business is having. And like, you need to teach your team how those conversations are run.
Yep.
That's like training that a sales executive can do with the sales reps to really talk about like what they care about in the language they use. I don't really see that actually a lot.
Yeah.
I don't see that happening.
Yeah. I think the other thing too is there's a ton of sales memes about this out there where it's like you spend a real long time trying to have access to the room that the meeting's taking place in. But once you're there, you're like, get me out of here. Like, this is bananas. I think the thing that I try to do with my directors today is to give them an abundance of access to information that maybe they wouldn't be privy to in a trusting way, in a sensitized way. Like, I'll sanitize information to make sure that I'm sharing the right amount and not too much, but also giving them enough leash or enough information for them to make the wrong decision. I think the thing as an executive that I'm trying to do with my directors is find leverage. I would love for you to be able to go out and make decisions and come back to me and say, hey, this worked. But I'm also okay with, hey, I tried this thing. It didn't work, but I know why. What I'm not okay with is if I give you some guidance or feedback or some sort of information to go make a business decision, and you come back and you're like, it didn't work and I have no idea why. Help, like SOS.
Yeah.
And so I think cultivating or providing coaching in those areas has really worked out.
Love it, man. I feel like we could do a whole freaking part 2 on this, but we have to jump in a couple minutes. So
Sure.
Let's get to the rapid fire.
Yeah, go for it.
How do you prevent and or deal with stress?
This is a wild one. So again, detaching yourself from the outcome, I think is a big one just right off the top. I also, diet and sleep really matter for me.
Oh, 100%.
Is huge. I think the other one that I don't even know where I learned this, but somebody a long time ago said, for a week, every hour, measure your energy level. And so you can understand what your own rhythm is for like when you're really on it. And I find that my power time of where I have clarity of mind, I'm really in the zone, is kind of that 10:30 to 12:30. And then after lunch, I kind of go down, and then I have another kind of like shot of energy and clarity in like the 3:30 to 5.
Yeah.
And so I try to move my calendar to align with that. So for things that are like, hey, Aaron, I haven't talked to you in a while, would love to connect. I'm in like some corner of the business. Do you know what time I schedule those conversations for?
End of the day.
Yeah. Like that's at the 4:30, or that's at like 1 p.m. right after lunch, which is like, it's not that I don't respect the importance of the conversation, but it's like, I don't have to do this like wild, deep thinking of analytics and come up with something that's going to determine the success of our business
100%.
or my business in that time.
Love it. How do you think about work-life balance?
Yeah. I was garbage at it for years.
Yeah.
I couldn't have done anything more, and I was laid off multiple times. And so I think what had to happen was I just had to get whacked. And I know that sounds terrible, and it was super hard for me, for my wife, for my family, but it really helped me understand, like, I'm just not that important in that there are things way out of my control. And so we say this to reps all the time, like, control the things that are inside of your control. And I know what those things are. And so to be able to elevate yourself to that really creates, whether it's less stress or really helps you kind of balance to say, listen, if this thing starts blowing up nonstop at 8 p.m. on a Tuesday, either something's gone terribly, terribly wrong, or more accurately, I've done a bad job, either capacity planning, I don't have enough reps, or I haven't hired the right people, or I haven't had a really challenging or difficult conversation 3 months ago, 3 weeks ago, 3 days ago, that has led to this escalatory path where now I have to handle it. Because you're not going to escape those conversations.
Yeah.
So pull them forward, make them when they're like really small issues, as opposed to just waiting for this to become catastrophic at 9 on a Tuesday.
Love it. What's a lesson you learned from one of your previous leaders that you still use today?
I mean, there's a laundry list of all those things.
Yeah.
I'll kind of go back to the previous one, which is the measure of a leader is their ability and the frequency of the challenging conversations they're willing to have. There's this mentor.
Probably a measure of your success also in general, huh?
It's been wild. I mean, his name's Matt. If you ever want to connect or have a deeper conversation about him, we can. But up until Matt entered my sphere and just like as a mentor, I was trying to have the conversation without having the conversation. And he was just like, stop, you need to kind of go for the throat and it's going to be better. And ever since that's happened, I mean, my career's really elevated.
Direct.
Yeah.
East Coast style, man. If you were a first-time VP of sales all over again, what advice would you give yourself knowing what you know today?
I'd spend more time with the front line. I, being a kind of science of sales guy and like the technical guy, I have this fervent urge every single morning to just go into a dashboard. That is my happy place.
Yeah.
And I need to pull constantly myself out and connect with reps and spend time listening and in the field with the folks that are actually creating the value for customers and prospects.
Got it. Dude, this was great.
Yeah, I had a great time.
So before you take off, where can people go to connect with you, learn more about Buyer's Edge? Are you hiring right now?
Yeah.
Like all of that stuff.
All the things. So first, please visit buyersedgeplatform.com. That's huge. Connect with me on LinkedIn, right? You can definitely do that. And I think the thing that is really imperative is, especially for the hospitality industry, for restaurants right now, my heart goes out to you. It's a really hard gig.
Yeah.
The margins are razor thin, and we're here to help and create value for you.
And you guys are hiring right now, you said?
Yep. So throughout the entire organization, so whether that's sales, operations, data science, we're spinning up a huge AI team. So yeah, if you don't have to be sales, obviously that's a big piece of your audience. But if you're a sales engineer, there's definitely a conversation to be had. So hit me up on LinkedIn.